Hey my friend, welcome. It's Deb from Bowl Me Over. Welcome to my kitchen. Today we are continuing our leftover series. What to make with leftovers. And we were over at Mom and Dad's last night and we had some leftover pot roast. And I was like, ooh, what you can do with leftover pot roast. And you can make, of course, roast beef sandwiches with some leftover gravy. Delicious. We could also do roast beef stroganoff, even tacos. But today I'm going to do one of my favorites because you know I'm the soup queen. So we're going to make a roast beef stew. And we're going to use our leftovers to do that. So I have some pot roast. Actually, I have a little bit of gravy. Have some leftover beans. To that, I'm going to add some celery, some carrots, some onions, and potatoes. And we're going to make an amazing soup. So let's dive right in. I'm going to turn this on so it starts getting warm. It's going to be a little loud in the background. I apologize for that. But I'm going to start by dicing an onion. I have about half onion. It's a yellow onion, so it's going to have really good flavor. And you've seen me do this a dozen times. We're just going to dice this up into small chunks. And the key, one of the best secrets for making a good soup, a good stew, is when you're dicing the vegetables and the meat, like all the things, you want to make sure that everything's going to fit on a soup spoon. Sounds a little silly, but if you want to make a really good soup, that's a great place to start. That way, when you take the scoop into the soup, you get all the flavors in one bite. I'm going to grab my little scooper, and for this, when you're making a soup or a stew, all those flavors are just so important. And something as simple as butter can add a lot. So I added about a tablespoon of olive oil to my pan. And to that, I added about half a tablespoon of butter. And the reason I'm using the butter in there is because it adds a little bit more flavor. Into that, I'm dropping my onions. And I'm going to reduce my heat to medium. There we go. And I'm going to hustle along so the onions really add a lot of flavor with the soup. But the next thing I'm going to add are potatoes. I'm using Yukon Gold, mostly because you know it, right? I'm lazy and I don't want to peel them. It's also a great addition to soup because it adds a lot of heartiness without just like without a lot of bulk or whatever. Just gonna trim the little eyes off. Already washed the potatoes, so they're ready to go. And again, we want to make sure these fit in a spoon. So it's about a 1/2-inch dice that I'm doing. I love how stuff like this comes together really easily. And it just doesn't take a whole lot of effort. Plus it cleans out the fridge in the meantime. And I'm a big proponent of not throwing away food. And leftovers, need to get used. So that's the goal today. And we eat soup year round. I know not everybody does, but it's springtime, so it's perfect time for a nice bowl of soup. Not too hot out yet. And this is delicious. Okay, so we got our celery. I'm going to stop for a minute and just give this another stir. Okay, carrots. You can peel the carrots or not peel the carrots. That's totally up to you. But I had, so speaking of leftovers, I had just a few baby carrots in the refrigerator, so I'm going to use those first. Into my pot they go. And 2 carrots, 2 full-size carrots. What's nice about using leftovers for this is they're already well seasoned. You know, the pot roast, so good yesterday, but it's really well seasoned to begin with. So, though I started off with sautéing, I am going to use some Montreal steak seasoning and give that a little season in there and stir it one more time. But the goal next is to get the potatoes tender. And to do that, you could add water, but I know it's going to add a lot more flavor if I use beef stock. So I'm going to add the beef stock right to this. I'm going to increase the heat to high and bring this to a boil. It's going to take probably, we cut everything pretty small, so it's going to probably take about 10 to 12 minutes. In that time, I'm going to go ahead and dice the roast beef, so that's ready to go. Everything else pretty much is ready. I actually had some leftover gravy. I'm going to add it to this at the end. Hang tight, I'll be back in a minute. Hey guys, I'm back. Okay, so the potatoes have been, the soup I should say, has been boiling for about 10 minutes. I know that the potatoes are done because I take a fork and just testing them real quick, and they're nice and tender. The carrots are too. So yay, it's what we're looking for. So the next thing I'm going to do is go ahead and add the remaining ingredients. And that is the roast beef that we chopped up. I have some green beans over here. And actually I have some of the gravy from last night's meal as well. And if you're wondering, why don't you just add all that at the same time? Because the roast beef is cooked, the green beans are cooked, the gravy's done, but especially the roast beef and green beans, if we add those initially, when we begin boiling the soup, it's going to overcook. These will turn out to be a soggy mess, and the roast beef will just end up being stringy. So just adding those now, which is great because then I have a really nice combination of, you know, like fresh vegetables and some greens in there. So it's really a nice full meal. The last thing I'm going to add is going to be the gravy. And the neat thing about using the gravy is there's flour in the gravy, and because there's flour in the gravy, it's going to help thicken the soup. So it's kind of a nice little added bonus. So in it goes. And I'm just going to give that a good stir. And we want to stir it because we want the gravy to warm up, to go throughout the whole soup and stew. And oh my gosh, this is thickening up really nicely. See how great that looks? And what little effort we had to put this together. What a great use of leftovers. That looks fantastic. So next up, let's give it a try. Okay, our soup is bubbling away. In fact, I'm gonna go ahead and turn it off. Everything in there is cooked. Everything in there is set and ready to go. But before I dish this up for everybody, I wanna take a minute and taste it. This is the perfect time just to make sure that all the flavors are right. Does it need more salt? Could it use a little more pepper? What do we need in this? So I'm gonna give it a quick taste, and this is gonna be hot. Wow, that's good. And you know, that is the wonderful thing about using leftovers. Because the roast beef was seasoned, the gravy seasoned, we use that little bit of Montreal steak seasoning, which has, you know, like onion powder and garlic powder and black pepper and salt, all the things. We're pretty good here. I used probably about a teaspoon of the Montreal steak seasoning on this. I'm gonna call that done. Guys, that is fantastic. Now, that is my idea of a great meal that's also very, very hot. And you know that the next thing I do, because this made, you know, a really nice pot of stew. Next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add it to my little containers. The potatoes won't freeze particularly well, but if you needed to, you could freeze the potatoes in this. They're gonna get a tiny bit mealy, but other than that, the flavors will all still be there. The majority of this is going back to my mom though. And so I'm gonna package those up. I use these great reusable containers for that. I have 4 of them off to the side. And that way when mom stops by later today, they are set and ready to go for her. She's gonna have lunches for the week. I'm gonna steal one for me and it sounds pretty good. So guys, thanks for joining me. I hope that you found this to be an interesting way to use some leftovers. This is great for leftover roast beef. You could also use it for leftover ham or, you know, turkey or leftover pork, really all the things. Everything's still the same. You can use the gravy, potatoes, onions, celery, and carrots. It's all good stuff. So anyway, I'll see you next time. It's Deb from Bowl Me Over. We're talking about leftovers. Check out the information below. Give me a like and follow. Appreciate it. See you soon.